Dorff refuted this, saying, quote, "There's not a chance in the world that Scottie Pippen would have come back on a one-year contract." So, Shannon, how unrealistic was it to try to bring back that 98 Bulls team?
Very, very unrealistic. And I shared this with Skip yesterday, because you have to look at it, Skip, like this. Scottie Pippen had an injury history. Now, in his first 11 years, Scottie Pippen had made $22 million. So you meaning to tell me he was going to be willing to forego the 5-year, $60 million offer that they had on the table at Houston to take a 1-year what? With that back. Remember, Skip, the back. Remember, he had the knee. No, he had, was his ankle? Was his ankle or knee that he had waited to have surgery on? He had the history of migraines. He was going to be unwilling to roll the dice, because at that point, Skip, he had 6 rings. Another ring wasn't going to secure his future financially. $67 million worth. You look at Luke Longley. Luke Longley got 5 years, $30 million from the Phoenix Suns. He had 3 rings. Another ring wasn't going to secure him financially. That money was. Steve Kerr got 5 years, $11 million. Skip, you have to understand, they do not have what Mike had behind him, which was that Nike machine. Mike Jordan, I just read yesterday, is worth $2.1 billion. Scottie Pippen, Luke Longley, and Steve Kerr together is not even a tenth of that. So with that being said, Skip, they couldn't risk 1-year deals. Skip, that's why nobody wants to play on the franchise tag. Skip, that's 1 year. With the injury risk so high, they want long-term financial security, and especially in basketball, because that money is fully guaranteed. So there's no way Scottie, who had made $22 million in his first 11 years, was going to take a 1-year deal. Skip, I do not believe at that point in time Mike was going to be willing to play for less than what he thought his market value was, and that was going to be somewhere around $40 million. Because, Skip, if you remember, all those other years, Skip, he was the 15th highest paid, the 8th, 20th highest paid, and he didn't say a word. But, boy, 97 and 98, he said, y'all need to give me back pay. All that money that I left on the table and let you sign all these other guys, and there were guys on my team making as much as I was, I need that back right now. So, Skip, it was very unrealistic. And remember, Skip, Dennis Rodman, over the next 2 years, played 35 games. They were not bringing Dennis Rodman back, especially, Skip. He had gotten to the point they'd have practice and he out there wrestling Hulk Hogan. Oh, he taking 2 days off to go to Vegas, and they got to come get him out of his apartment. So that was moved on. And Jared Reinsdorf said something very interesting, Skip. He said their market value wasn't worth that to us. I'm going to take that man at his word.
Okay, let me explain to you one last time why it would have been completely realistic to bring back the 98 Bulls if, in fact, Michael had said, I'm all in to come back. And back to your point about Michael now worth $2.1 billion, Shannon, what I learned at the end of The Last Dance was, once again, money can't buy happiness. Michael Jordan remains 20 years later. Go ahead.
Skip, you're exactly right. Because, Skip, Mike has isolated himself. He didn't build the camaraderie, the friendship over the years that a lot of players have built. And because he's Michael Jordan, Skip, he's not that trusting. And I understand it, Skip. I totally get it. But Michael does not have the friends. He did not cultivate the relationships that a lot of people cultivate while they're in the league.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine. Got it. I'm talking about he's clearly still haunted, tormented to this day over the fact he did not get the opportunity to defend his last championship. That's the way sports work. You win, you get the opportunity to defend. Could they have won it again? Right. I believe they could have. But here's the point. In the end, in fact, I heard from a friend of Michael's yesterday. Michael feels that the one thing he learned through that whole process was you can't trust Phil Jackson. He got duped. He got blindsided. He got bamboozled, because what came clear to me was Michael thought, even until that interview for this Last Dance documentary, that Phil got run out of town. So out of loyalty to Phil, he said, okay, I go with you out the back door. And that's not what happened. His own documentary showed Michael, wait a second, Reinsdorf, who I was shocked even sat down to interview for the documentary, but it's because he wanted to take him and his GM, Jerry Krause, off the hook. The reason Jerry Reinsdorf, a shrewd operator, sat down for that documentary was he wanted the world to know something that had never been reported. He offered Phil a deal to come back for 1999. I did not know that. I fell off my chair on the floor when that fact came out of Jerry Reinsdorf's mouth, and then was validated in an interview in the documentary by Phil. Phil's point all along was, I just don't want to do this with Jerry Krause anymore. I've had enough. The bridge is burned. I'm done with them, but I'm telling you, Shannon, he already knew, because I told you, the Zen master was actually the spin master. He knew he had a chance to go coach Shaq and Kobe. And a year later, he's coaching them to the first of their 3 straight championships. He spun Michael Jordan. He duped him into believing that he was finished too. He was going to walk into the sunset back to Montana. Wrong. He's going to Hollywood to coach Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bean Bryant. He got you, Michael. You walked into the sunset for 3 years, the last 3 years of your prime at age 35, 36, and 37. You sat out. It was so wrong. And now Michael has huge, lasting regrets over it, because he got bamboozled. He did not know that Reinsdorf made that call. So, Shannon, let's go back to reality. If he knew that Reinsdorf had offered Phil and Phil had said no, and Michael still wanted to play, well, then he could go to Reinsdorf if he'd had an open line of communication, which he did not. They had no dialogue, right, he said, about any of this. He could have gone to Reinsdorf and said, okay, if Phil wants out, let's go get a real coach. I don't want to hear anything more from little Jerry Krause about somebody named Tim Floyd at Iowa State. That's out, Jerry Reinsdorf. But you give me a made man. Just go get any veteran coach I can respect and who will obviously know how to coach me, and we will go forward. Now, to Scottie Pippen, would Michael have taken less money so Scottie could have had a 1-year, $10 million deal? Highly possible. But here's what you forget, Shannon Sharp. It came out yesterday in the Jerry Krause unpublished memoir that he gave a parting gift to Scottie. That was not Houston's independent offer to Scottie. That's what the Bulls did for Scottie. They did what was called the sign and trade. So they gave him a parting gift because they were starting over. They didn't care. So they signed Scottie for all that money you just said that Scottie got from the Rockets. Yes. And then traded him to the Rockets so that he could fit under their cap. They did him a huge favor, but without that favor, he's not going to get nearly that much. They paid him, they gave him $20 more million as sort of a